we had a few videos that came out from RFK from the Health and Human Services, from the secretary tweet, from his tweeting account, from the actual website. But this one, the newest one that just dropped, well, we'll let you guys see it for yourself, but there's a new policy announcement from the CDC as of today. And it might be some good news that we can at least kick this segment off with, because it's not all good news, but this might be a little, as we said, we like to say on the show, a little breadcrumb thrown our direction. So let's check it out. The new announcement from RFK Jr. and the CDC.
Hi, everybody. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary, and I'm here today with NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary. I couldn't be more pleased to announce that as of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule. Last year, the Biden administration urged healthy children to get yet another COVID shot despite the lack of any clinical data to support the repeat booster strategy in children.
That ends today. It's common sense and it's good science.
There's no evidence healthy kids need it today, and most countries have stopped recommending it for children.
We're now one step closer to realizing President Trump's promise to make America healthy again.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Jay Scott, how great of news is this? Or is it a nothing burger or somewhere in the middle?
You know, great news would have been we're filing prosecution, you know, for crimes against humanity, against the Pfizer guys, against Dr. Fauci, against Bill Gates, against DARPA, you know, the people in DARPA that were involved, and everyone else in the complex that was involved in it. So that's what I would call great news. This news, I would say, is the absolute minimum that we should expect from RFK being put into this position, because someone who shared as much damage that's been done from this vaccine as, you know, he did, it's not like he isn't aware of how many people like this shot is hurt. So at minimum, it should be pulled off the market for everybody, in my opinion. So this is like the bare minimum, where they're no longer giving it to pregnant women and kids, but you know, they're still allowing people to get it. Just because it's not recommended, it doesn't mean that people can't get it. Like, you know, so, and of course you might hear a few libertarians out there say, well, if people, you know, want to get it, let them get it. But at the end of the day, they are making what I would call like an obviously bad decision, considering how many side effects have popped up from it with no potential upside, and all of society has to pay the cost for their bad decisions, because some of those people aren't going to have insurance, and the more like costs go up for healthcare overall, the worse it is for everybody. So, you know, like at the end of the day, I would hope people demand more from RFK than simply removing it for a pregnant woman. And maybe he's waiting on the studies to come through. And, you know, I'm sure that's what we're going to get to in the next part. But the Maha report, you know, that was one of the big things they called out in it. They're saying that the government is no longer doing good science. So this was stage one, where they do, I guess, an assessment of what's wrong with health in this country. And then part two, which is supposed to be in the next 100 days, is going to be when, you know, they roll out the official recommendations. So maybe the plan is to wait until they get better science. But in my opinion, there's already plenty of science that justifies pulling the experimental shots, considering COVID is no longer an emergency. But it's good. I will say it's good that they're no longer recommending it for one group, but way too little. And we should have more than enough evidence to be further along, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's like these little tiny breadcrumb baby steps. Why is it just healthy children and healthy pregnant women? Are you insinuating that if you are an unhealthy child or an unhealthy pregnant woman, that it's totally cool? Not just totally cool, but we're telling you, we're recommending that you get this shot. That
No-
part is so disturbing to me, because why would unhealthy people need something that could jeopardize their immune system even further? That's a not okay. That
Exactly.
language is telling the wrong story. If anything, it should be the other way around. It should be like, well, if you're unhealthy, then we could see that experimenting with something that we don't have long-term data on that does cause problems, we don't want to make you do that. Only if you're healthy can you then be recommended. I mean, I would want it in the other direction. So this, to me, really concerns me, Jay, because it's unofficially telling a narrative that's incorrect. It's telling people that the most important people are unhealthy. Those people need to be in the front of the line. That's who the CDC is focusing on. And to me, that puts them more in danger than healthy people, maybe.
So the line of thinking, and I'm going to tell you why it's wrong, right? In just a moment. But the line of thinking is that people who have other health conditions are more susceptible to COVID, which is true. People who have more chronic conditions do get COVID worse. However, I should have came prepared with the actual studies, but the viewers can go look it up. There are multiple studies out there showing that there's a negative correlation between getting severe COVID and taking these shots. So that means instead of you being less likely to have severe disease with each COVID shot, you are more likely to have severe disease with this COVID shot. So it really does erase the whole point of the vaccine, which is why I said it should be pulled from the market. And there's multiple studies out there showing right now that essentially they can't control how much spike protein is made by the mRNA, technology going into your body. And I was watching a podcast the other day. I forget who it was. I think it was Jay Bhattacharya. And he said that we're still 2 or 3 Nobel Prizes away from mRNA technology being ready for game time. So this, I think this was before he got the nomination. So it's like, all of these people know how dangerous it is. They've all seen the studies. So what exactly is taking so long? I'm not part of government. I'm not part of the bureaucracy. I don't know how that works, but I don't understand why these peer-reviewed studies aren't just like front page news right now. Why do we have to wait so many steps? And hopefully nothing else comes from it. But I saw a headline this morning talking about a new COVID variant. And, I don't know if you saw this, Matt, but the WHO recently got all of their member countries to sign that agreement that essentially gives the WHO control over their pandemic responses right now. So that big thing that everyone was watching for, it finally happened. Now, America is not part of the WHO, so we didn't sign on to that. But if that's what's happening in the rest of the world, does that mean, they're not ramping up for another pandemic and they may still try some of the same tricks just in another way? Who knows what happens? Hopefully not. But they are now talking about another strain, literally not even a week after this WHO agreement was signed. So keep a lookout for that, everyone.
Yeah. That's, man, they're always up to something, Jay. They're always up to something. This is another a message that came out earlier from RFK Jr. I thought it was important we got to this before we moved on to the AI topic, because AI is part of this. This is our big concern in health right now, is the merging of AI technology with our health movement, the Make America Healthy Again movement. So here's what Kennedy put out, and there was already some pushback about this this other happy video he put out. Check this out.
Hey, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary, and today I had one of the most exciting meetings that I've had since taking office in this building. It was a meeting with about a dozen CEOs of health tech companies who are entrepreneurs who have a vision of transforming and disrupting American healthcare and turning our country from a sick care system into a healthcare system. We heard from companies that operate healthcare apps that summarize your medical records on your telephone and give you real-time health data on what you eat, how you feel, how you're sleeping. We heard from companies that create wearables that can tell you your blood pressure, whether you have atrial fibrillations. All of these things provide the kind of transparency and the capacity for Americans to take control of their own healthcare. We're determined here at HHS to sweep away the regulatory barriers and allow these companies to function and flourish in the marketplace and do well for themselves by making the rest of us healthy and making America healthy again.
All light and bubbly,
Produced by
and
the US
yay,
Department of
good things happening there, Kenny. But look, we already have some pushback from some notable people, especially this first one. I want to say Mary Talley Bowden called this out. Follow the money. And these are all the people he's talking about that he met with and the CEOs. This is where they are sourced. Their funding is sourced from. You guys can see the chart here. This is Callie Means is at the top. This is the person. By the way, I didn't see Callie Means in that previous video, did I? You did not see the Surgeon General standing there with that team. So I would hope that Callie Means gets the memo on the new CDC recommendations. But this is where the money is coming from. Let me go to the next page. And you guys, you see that with the funding amount and the source of their funds. These are all tech companies, Forbes, all these.
And pay attention to the Dr. Casey Means line there, because I know you spoke about Callie, but everyone should pay attention to what it said about Casey Means right there too, because that's the
Casey's right
company.
Casey's right under. So both of them. So TechCrunch. So this is a 50 million funding from TechCrunch and PitchBook. This is so these are these sources that, and Dr. Mary did a great job putting this chart together. I'll come back to this in a second. I just want to show everybody the extent of her work, because it goes down every single person he's discussing and alluding to in that video that were part of this CEO gathering and all of their funding and all the different companies that it comes from. We don't have time on the show to go through each one of these, but I can tell you guys, if you're watching this on replay, you're watching this right now, take a note of this or go to Dr. Mary's Twitter account. You guys can cross-check this yourselves. This is where the funding is going to. So this is very disturbing. All of this, so Crunchbase, TechCrunch, Business Wire, that's where all the funding is coming from. And I'm going to put this tweet up. This is from Patriot Voice, and this is where my concern. I'm aligned here with Patriot Voice, and I want your thoughts on this, Jay. RFK Jr. is directing HHS to adapt to and integrate with the Internet of Bodies and the fourth industrial revolution through wearable devices and implants that track your every health metric. These devices will eventually use the 6G network to connect to the soon-to-be mandatory digital ID to measure your individual carbon usage for carbon taxes and lockdowns restrictions. Real ID is a precursor to this agenda and will help facilitate it. This is a total shoo-in for the WEF plan for global digital enslavement and transhumanism agenda. Is Patriot Voice overreacting here, Jay, or should we be concerned?
Those are all valid concerns he has. And, I guess what piques my interest the most is the fact that RFK Jr. is actually involved in a lawsuit right now on behalf of essentially cell phones giving people brain cancer. So he's representing victims of EMF, electromagnetic frequencies emitted by cell phones at, I want to say it's probably 3G or 4G within the movement. So he's aware that electromagnetic frequencies can have like an impact on the brain and different parts of the body, because he's representing people trying to collect compensation for those damages right now. So when I hear all this talk about putting wearables that are tracking you on your body, that's one of the things that pops into my mind. Well, wouldn't that put us in the middle of more electromagnetic frequencies? And, what are the health lessons that you've learned from that lawsuit that you're part of, RFK Jr.? And how are you sure that the same effects that we saw there aren't also going to come from these devices that you're now promoting? And then obviously, before we have any form of decentralized digital identity that gives us control and transparency over how our information is used, these are all, this is all data that's going to be stored on a centralized server that can be accessed by the government or sold off at their will. Like, don't forget what happened with 23andMe. Like, You remember that story? They went around collecting everyone's DNA, told everyone, oh, don't worry, we're going to keep it safe. It's not going anywhere. And now all of a sudden they got everyone's DNA. So the market isn't there anymore. Now they're selling it off, like to some other big buyer. I think it's like a not insurance company, probably a pharmaceutical company or something like that. So it's like, we need to, if they're going to have that conversation, and I'm not saying that there's never any use for wearable technology, but let's talk about some of the potential dangers. Let's talk about the conflicts of interest, and let's talk about what we need to have in place first before we roll out something like that, so we can ensure that there is no abuse of the system. Because if we had a digital bill of rights and we had control over, or at least transparency into who's accessing our data, it will be a completely different ballgame. Like if you're in Estonia right now, did you know, Matt, that if an Estonian doctor wants to check your medical record, you get a notification of it, and unless it's an emergency, you can decide whether or not that person can even see that? We don't have any type of control like that, like in America right now. Why do they get it, but we can't have it? That doesn't make sense to me. So this technology already exists. There's no talk about implementing it. All the talk is around how do we connect our bodies to the internet and give the government and corporations 24/7 access to see what's going on inside of us. That's the conversation I hear happening right now.
Yeah. And it's the conversation that needs to be happening right now, especially, and I think we should get into the next story here in a second, but I think you're 100% right, Jay. This is the conversation we need to be having right now. And the MAGAs that got fooled that Trump is taking on the deep state, taking on the WEF, it's just repackaging. It's just manipulating the narrative. It's a rebranding. That's all of the same thing. It's the same thing. And the technocracy age that we're coming into is going to happen one way or the other. So I don't think we're not trying to be nihilists here, guys, but we need to have this conversation. We need to wake up the people that think that some sort of win took place in November and that he's going to stick it to these guys and the Klaus Schwabs and all those people that were going to do it their way. It's just being repackaged. That's it. But it's the same inevitable conclusion. We're all going to be linked in to the matrix. We have to figure out a way out.